Hello, I'm Kadisha, and with me is my partner Olivia. Today, we'll explore cultural communication in Saudi Arabia. I'll cover customs, values and beliefs, symbols and artifacts, and three of the Hofstede's dimensions. Olivia will follow social norms and the remaining Hofstede dimensions. Let's begin. We chose Saudi Arabia because it has deep historical roots, religion-driven daily life, and fast social change under Vision 2030, all of which shape how people communicate. Understanding Saudi culture helps us see how interpersonal behaviors like greetings, hospitality, roles, and difference to authority differ from Western norms. All for explaining common customs, core values, and cultural symbols, and then apply Hofstede's dimensions to give a structural cultural analysis. In Saudi Arabia, daily life is structured around the five daily Muslim prayers. Businesses and social gatherings pause or slow down at these times. Prayer routines mean timetables, and public rhythms differ from many Western settings. For example, work breaks and meeting times may accommodate prayer calls. Next, food and hospitality are central, offering Arabic coffee called kwa and dates is a ritualized welcome. Hosts take care to serve guests and sharing large platters is common. Finally, greetings are generally formal. Men will often shake hands. However, cross-gender contact in public is governed by social norms, so greetings can be more reserved between unrelated men and women. Respect and use of formal address to elders and leaders are expected and a signal of politeness. Two core values are family honor and community connections. Family honor, which is maintaining reputation and dignity, strongly influences behavior. Social decisions are often made with family standing in mind. This extends to marriage, business, and social life. Community connections, whether tribal, extended family, or local networks, they shape daily support systems. People rely on in-group ties for resources and social capital. Religion, which is Islam, is woven through these values, guiding more expectations and community rituals. This emphasis on family and group loyalty is a hallmark of a collective culture. Symbols and artifacts express identity. Arabic calligraphy is both a sacred and national art form in Saudi Arabia. It's used in religious texts, public art, and official emblems and was recognized widely for its cultural importance. Architecture, like mosques, geometric motifs, and traditional forms, communicates religious and historical values. Geometric design and Arabic calligraphy are integrated into public and private spaces. A strong cultural artifact is the dallah, the traditional Arabic coffee pot, which symbolizes hospitality and welcome. Offering coffee in a dallah is a culturally loaded act of guest friendship. On Hofstede's individualism versus collectivism, Saudi Arabia is strongly a collectivist. People define themselves by family and group membership rather than by individual achievements. Decisions are often taken with family input. Loyalty to the in-group is prioritized, and social obligations like hosting and supporting relatives are very common. This collectivism affects interpersonal communication, like indirectness, difference, and emphasis on harmony are common because they preserve group cohesion. Saudi society scores high on power distance, meaning people accept hierarchical differences in status and authority. Respect for elders, religious leaders, and supervisors is expected. Organizational decision-making tends to be centralized and top-down. In interpersonal contexts, this means communication towards higher status individuals are more formal and differential. Disagreements are often expressed indirectly or privately. On masculinity versus femininity, Saudi Arabia leans more towards a masculine orientation. Cultural emphasis on achievement, status, and clearly defined gender roles. Men have historically held public authority and representational roles, while women's roles were more domestic. However, social and economic reforms, like recent increases in women's employment and public participation, are changing how masculinity, femininity are expressed in society and workplaces. Before we move on to the next section, a quick recap. Saudi culture features strong prayer routines and hospitality customs. Family honor and community connections shape decisions. Arabic calligraphy, architecture, and the dallah carry symbolic weight. And Hofstede's dimensions show Saudi society as collectivist, high in power distance, and leaning towards masculinity. These aspects directly affect interpersonal communication. For instance, greetings, message directness, and who participates in conversations. Now, Olivia will discuss more of the norms and the meaning of Hofstede's dimensions.
So first I'm going to be talking about norms. So in our book, norms are defined as informal guidelines about what is acceptable or proper social behavior within a specific culture. So norms are generally not concrete. It's not like do or die. And people often don't know a norm exists until they see it exhibited firsthand in a culture. So first, I'm going to be talking about religious norms in Saudi Arabia. So some examples of religious norms in Saudi Arabia include only using the right hand when offering or receiving anything. The left hand is considered to be used for personal hygiene purposes for the most part. And then modest clothing should be worn by both men and women, which is pictured on the slide here. So if we look at the man on the slide is wearing a thobe, which is a long robe that covers his entire body, along with a headscarf. And then the woman is wearing an abaya, which is a loose-fitting cloak. Generally, they're black, which also covers her entire body, and then a hijab to cover her hair. Next, some examples of societal norms. Tipping a service is mandatory in most places. It's very frowned upon if you don't tip. Tipping is just something that happens everywhere. It's not like when you come to the United States and someone gives you bad service and you're like, I'm not tipping. If you don't tip in Saudi Arabia, it's very frowned upon. Everybody does it. It's a norm. Voices are kept low in public places in Saudi Arabia, and inappropriate physical gestures are to be avoided. So like flipping someone off or something along those lines are avoided in Saudi Arabia. So then for some gender norms, men in Saudi Arabia are expected to be dominant, and they're expected to be a provider and protector in the family. And then another gender norm, marriages in Saudi Arabia are usually arranged with the family's involvement. And then for women usually take on the role of being the nurturer in the household, organizing family gatherings, stuff like that, which I feel like is pretty typical. And then women in Saudi Arabia often pursue higher education as the men do, but women ensure that she fulfills her family obligations as well. So both genders have different expectations, but I feel like they're pretty equal expectations, and it is expected that both genders respect the other in all situations. Men aren't higher up on a pedestal than women. It's pretty equal. Okay, uncertainty avoidance. So Luhmann defines this as the extent to which people feel threatened by ambiguity and uncertainty to try to avoid it. So, a country with a high uncertainty avoidance would prefer strict rules, structure, predictability, and a lot of discomfort is shown with ambiguity and risk. A country with a low uncertainty avoidance is more relaxed about uncertainty, flexibility is embraced, and the country or nation tolerates change and innovation. So Saudi Arabia has a fairly high uncertainty avoidance. According to the International Business Center, Saudi is ranked 68 on the Uncertainty Avoidance Index. So this level of uncertainty just indicates that Saudi Arabia has strict rules, laws, and policies, and regulations are adopted and implemented. And the ultimate goal of the nation and the population is to control everything in order to eliminate or avoid the unexpected. So Saudi's government is an absolute monarchy. This means that there is a centralized power. In this case, it's a royal family, and the royal family is the only source of authority and controls all branches of the government. So monarchs claim that their authority came directly from God years ago, so there's no questioning the monarch or overriding their decision. And then the religion of Islam also plays a huge role in day-to-day life of Saudi Arabian citizens. So the citizens follow the halal and the haram system, which affects diet and public conduct. And then in addition to that, there are daily prayer times nationwide and strict dress codes that are legal requirements. So in conclusion, the nation of Saudi Arabia live the same day-to-day lives, following the laws of the monarch and Islam, which have been set in stone for years and years, which allows for little to no change for the society in Saudi Arabia. So on the slide in the pictures, pictured on the top is the current king of Saudi Arabia, King Salman, and then on the bottom is the Prince Mohammed bin Salman. All right, long-term versus short-term orientation. So that is the degree to which a culture emphasizes future rewards over short-term benefits. So a country with an LTO, long-term orientation, value future rewards, perseverance, and adaptability. Decisions are usually made with the long run in mind, and they prioritize sustainable growth and long-term effects for the nation. And then a country with a short-term orientation, or STO, focuses on past and present values like tradition, religion, and just like maintaining social harmony. Instead of prioritizing the long run, immediate results are prioritized. So because Saudi Arabia's culture is so deeply rooted in religion and the strong respect is held for the royal family, Saudi Arabia is considered to have a short-term orientation. So Saudi Arabia's culture emphasizes respect for religion, traditions, and maintaining societal stability, which lines up pretty well with the definition for short-term orientation. Next, indulgence versus restraint. So this is the degree to which societies allow free gratification of desires and leisures. For example, a country with an indulgent culture allows itself to enjoy life, have fun, prioritize socializing, and enjoying free time as much as work is prioritized. A good example of a indulgent country would be Mexico. And then a country with a restrained culture has strict norms, prioritizes work over free time, and is like very disciplined. And a country that exhibits this well is China. So behavior in Saudi Arabia is strongly guided by religious and cultural cues, as mentioned multiple times previously. Citizens are expected to follow the strict religious expectations like dieting, dress codes, and prayer times, as previously mentioned. And then also previously mentioned, the royal family is above everybody in the nation and is a centralized power. So pictured here on the slide are the cities of Medina, which is on the top, and Mecca, which is on the bottom. So when praying, Saudi Arabians actually pray in the direction of the city of Mecca, the one on the bottom. And then Medina is another city that is central to Islamic faith. So these cities just show how important it is for citizens to follow their religious practices and to not take it lightly. Praying times, the dress code, in certain places like these holy cities, it's a non-negotiable, which just shows how restrained the culture is. All right, so for my conclusion. So it's very clear that culture is deeply rooted in religion and their style of government, which is the monarchy, in Saudi Arabia. And the different but equal gender roles result in societal and family stability. I don't think that there's an uproar or any disapproval in Saudi Arabia of how they live, how day-to-day life goes. Saudi Arabia exemplifies many ideas, terms, and theories from what we've learned so far in interpersonal communication. Some of these would just be the norms, beliefs, and practices. I think that this country was great at just showing how much a culture can be deeply rooted in religion. It doesn't just have to come from the government. Religion plays a huge role in some countries, and I think that Saudi Arabia was a great example of that. And it was really eye-opening to see how people can include religion into their day-to-day lives. And I feel like religion sometimes gets a bad rep, but I think Saudi Arabia is a great example of how religion is embraced. They follow it. Nobody bats an eye at it. It's just normal. And it was just really eye-opening to learn about Islam too. I don't really have much knowledge on Islam. So yeah. And then do I need to add my references in my recording? I don't know, but if I do, here they are.
Here are some more of our resources, just so that you have all of them.